Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Veterans Views radio show. Long lived 17, 20 years we've been on the radio and we've had our established program. We are here in beautiful Hammond, Indiana at the Bunker, WJOB 1230 AM, 1047 FM. And of course, we're all veterans, a volunteer force here that we come on the radio show and bring you the best news, the current events, and VA benefit relations updates as quick as possible every Friday morning at 0900. For you citizen soldiers out there, that's 9 o'clock a.m. So thank you for tuning in. We got a great show for you today. We got a lot of things to talk about. I'm going to introduce all the co-hosts here. We got Steve Bramer.
Good morning.
Purple Heart recipient, war hero in my eyes. Love him, and he's like a big brother to me. We got Donna Ostrander.
Good morning.
And once a Marine, always a Marine. We were just talking about that. Shout out to Marine Pete out there, 18-year current service member Marine that went to Hammond and Gavitt. So shout out to you, Marine Pete. And I am, of course, Chief Warrant Officer, CW2 type, still in the Army National Guard, and I've been all over the world. So thank you for the honor and the privilege to be on the radio show here today to bring you guys current events. And we've got a good topic that we're going to jump right into real quick, just for a couple minutes. But first, I do want to say, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Hoorah, yes,
right?
You know
and
it.
That's a mentality, right?
You bet.
So I know Steve and I are probably on the same page with the Army. As soon as I get out, I am no longer a soldier. And Steve hasn't been a soldier for a long time.
Don't ask me to shave. Don't ask me to shine my boots.
But, you know, once a Marine, always a Marine. Yep. It's a very prideful thing, and I never say ex-Marine.
No, never say ex-Marine.
Say it.
The only ex-Marines are in Leavenworth.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I like it. I like it. But yeah, so we are going to touch on one of the hot topics here, and especially in the region, nationwide, it's been an issue. But I think we're starting to see some pretty out of control gas prices.
Oh, absolutely.
And Donna, Steve and I haven't been around as long as Donna. Donna's got some great history and some great knowledge, and she's kind of a buff, in my opinion, on that. And she remembers back in 1973 when inflation got out of control.
Oh, yeah.
Gas prices jumped a huge amount. And tell us a little bit about how it was back then.
Well, back in 73, when I was but a wee young lass, OPEC put an oil embargo on the United States. So we weren't getting hardly any oil, if any at all. So, of course, gas prices went through the roof. Not $5.99 through the roof, but at the time they went through the roof.
Said it went up 43%.
Yeah, it was rough. You know, at that time, I think oil per barrel was like $1.29.
Yeah, it says
and
here
it was cheap.
It went from $2.90 a barrel to $11.65 a barrel.
Yeah, which is
that's
a big jump. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting in my parents' car in the back seat, waiting in these long gas lines, and sweating to death because our car didn't have air conditioning at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was pleasant. And then you could only get 10 gallons a day, and that was every other day. So they had even days and odd days. So if the last digit of your license plate was a 5, you went on odd days. If it was a 6, you went on even days.
Yeah, and you know you were riding around in that big body Oldsmobile with a 30-gallon tank on it.
The big old station wagon.
Yeah, getting 3 miles to the gallon. Wow. But I mean, there was a lot of fights at gas stations.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because, you know, people, they're going to try and cut in the line and get gas when it's not their day. And all
like
that kind
toilet
of stuff.
paper during COVID.
Right. Exactly.
That's wild.
So it was pretty crazy. I mean, we had double-digit inflation. Home interest loans were like 18%.
Oh.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
How long did that last for?
That lasted throughout most of the 7. Well, the gas only lasted about a year.
But
hold on. But that went on for a year?
Well, maybe. I mean, I was a kid, so it felt like a year.
Yeah, no.
Right.
In my studies, inflation was like close to 100% through some of the 70s.
Through most of the 70s,
didn't really settle until the 80s. And that's that. You know, history tends, even with war, with military, with veteran service, you'll see, and I've seen as a student of history, that things kind of repeat themselves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? And regardless of who's in office, it seems like our economic upflow and downflow is so connected worldwide more than ever.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when countries like you had mentioned, the UAE, hop out of OPEC as recently as the last couple of months, then it's going to affect things on the long term. So this worldwide struggle that we're going through, and Australia's feeling it hard too. I just watched a network event on Australia, and their inflation and their gas prices are way worse than ours right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just our country. It's not just our president, right?
Right.
But I'm telling you, it's a worldwide thing right now. And anyways, we have to continue mission, and we have to do what we got to do. Get out there, vote for your candidates here. We've got elections coming up. And make sure that you have your voice and get your voice heard out there in the veterans community. And the way to really do that is to join great organizations like the American Legion. Get connected, put your finger on the pulse of the local support groups that we have, VFW, DAV, Military Officers Association. Very important to be involved because our voices as veterans do not get heard unless we show up in the masses, right?
Yeah.
So we will switch subjects a little bit because we got a special guest on hold here, and Steve Bramer and Donna and I had talked recently in the last few weeks about some marijuana, for lack of a better term, in Indiana, and Steve's excited about this topic. I can't tell you, you said we have we have a special guest to come on and give us the update downstate and what's going on, and Steve was just livid on the phone. He was sending balloon emojis and super big celebrations on the text messaging saying, listen, we're going to talk about weed, man. And I said, okay, awesome. I hope that's radio appropriate, but you know what? Hey, Indiana's coming into the 21st century now. Yeah. So, Steve, if you don't mind introducing your guest on Zoom, and we'll get going on the subject.
Who we're gonna have come on is Jeff. I hope I'm saying this right. Stracker. He is part of the medical cannabis push downstate, and he wanted to fill us in on some of the things that are going on now that there's been a declassification of cannabis.
Okay.
Are you there, Jeff?
Can you hear me?
There we go.
We are.
Hey, forget about it.
Forget about it.
So you're down from Indianapolis right now area?
No. I'm in Miami County.
Miami County.
Yeah,
Oh, you know how it is. If
Peru
it's not up
area,
here,
just north of Kokomo.
Okay. Indiana's got some really cool names, I'll tell you. We got like French Lick, and isn't there there's in Mexico, Indiana?
Is there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
is there?
Next to Chile or Chile.
Chile. Oh, we got Chile.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And we got the city of Avon. I don't know. Anyways. Yeah, well, bring us in, kind sir. Love the American Legion cap. And I assume you're a veteran, right? So with the American Legion cap.
It's a VFW.
Oh, VFW. Ooh, sorry.
okay.
Sorry.
I'm a member of the American Legion, the AMVETS, and the DAV. So
Very
member
good.
of all of them.
Awesome.
Matter
So,
of fact,
thank-
Jeff, why don't you lead us in? Tell us about yourself. How do you say your last name first?
It's Staker.
Staker.
Man. Sorry about that. That was close.
I had to mention, you're talking about the gas prices. I think Pintos are going to start making a comeback.
Oh no, everybody will be exploding then.
Well, it's one of those things, and you gotta pay attention because BP just put their earnings out, and guess what?
They made record profits.
Double from last year.
and they still got their people locked out.
Double profit from last year.
That's crazy.
So if you're paying
All right.
attention to their stock price, this isn't a recommendation by any means, but it's just not fair.
Right.
They're making double their profit this year while we're all suffering inflationary situations.
And they got their employees in Whiting locked out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me give you a debrief on what's going on, where we've been in the past, and about myself. So, for those that don't know me, prior to 2016, I was taking opiates through the VA for service-connected back pain, and obviously, like a lot of veterans have been doing out there. And I was running the risk of accidentally overdosing. So we decided to get off the medicine. This is back in 2016. I was still a federal employee, but I started Hoosier Veterans for Medical Cannabis. I asked my doctor at the VA, asked him what he thought about medical cannabis. And he said, if I could prescribe and recommend it, I would. But there are so much restrictions within the VA, I can't do that. But that's how I decided to start Hoosier Veterans for Medical Cannabis. So let me see if I can connect the dots where we are at today. So in 2016, I started Hoosier Veterans for Medical Cannabis. In 2017, I helped write the resolutions for the Indiana Department of the American Legion that passed through their state convention. Now, we all know that the national, just prior to that, had a resolution supporting the rescheduling of cannabis at a federal level. So I was doing that at a state. Later, in 2017 and 2018, the AMVETS and the VFW both proposed state resolutions that were passed at their state conventions for state officials to take a look at this and to reschedule it and put it into a category that finds its therapeutical benefits. So that's where we're at with that. And then in 2017, I also worked with the senior advisor for the Secretary of White House liaison for the Department of Veterans Affairs. At the time, it was Jake Leinenkugel. Does that sound familiar?
Leinenkugel?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Like Leinenkugel beer?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Jake was a former Marine, as I am. And,
Marines.
And I worked with him, and we put a forum together in Washington, D.C. at the Rayburn House Federal Building in the Gold Room, if you know what that room's at. Very prestigious room that had lots of conferences and meetings in the past. And the forum was entitled, What Medical Cannabis Would Look Like for Our Veterans. And I had 5 doctors throughout the United States and Canada at that forum, and 5 other veterans groups throughout the United States doing exactly what I'm doing. And it was quite informational and stuff like that. And 2 of the doctors that were at my presentation, Dr. Abram and Dr. Ziva Cooper, were instrumental in the 2017 National Academy of Science and Engineering and Medicine's the health effects of cannabis and cannabinoids and the current state of evidence and recommendations for research. 2 of those doctors were at my forum.
Wow.
And I was glad to have them there. So that was good.
That's great.
Now, what has our veterans been doing since then? I'm also a member of the Veterans Action Council, which is a national, I would say global, because we have veterans from Australia, England, allied veterans throughout the world. And in 2020, our veterans went and testified before the World Health Organization to reschedule, to give recommendations for the reschedule of cannabis, because the World Health Organization put it it was their Schedule 4. I mean, their World Health scheduling is completely different than the Controlled Substance Act that we follow. So it was in a Schedule 4. After the testimony, the World Health Organization recommended to the United Nations that cannabis be put into a category where it is therapeutically valuable and beneficial. So the UN, through their treaty, changed the classification of cannabis and cannabis resin. So what does that do? What does that treaty do? Well, back in December, we all know that the president signed the executive order. Well, the president doesn't have the authority to change the rescheduling, but the executive order basically pushed forward and expedited, basically a kick in the butt. The Attorney General has the policy to, under the Substance Control Act, to reschedule cannabis into its correct scheduling, which is Schedule 3 now, which makes it a viable medicine for our patients. And now here in the state, what we're doing is, as of January, I submitted a white paper to the governor entitled Indiana Cannabis Standard Initiative. And within that white paper, it calls for an Indiana Cannabis Compliance Commission. Now, if we let our legislators develop this commission, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to do it in a manner that's beneficial to our citizens and to our veterans here in Indiana. But the governor can, by executive order, form this commission. This commission needs to be a quasi-legislative and quasi-judicial agency, like the Utilities Commission. They have the right to make rules and enforce regulations and whatnot. So that's what I'm trying to propose to the state to do. This Schedule 3 really opens the door for a lot of our veterans, especially, look at me. I've been a medical cannabis patient since 2016, and I've had a medical cannabis card. And now there seems to be the Americans with Disability Act comes into play. Now that gives me a legal stance, to have my medicine. So in a nutshell, that's what we've been doing and where the fight's been going and where we continue to go.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's incredible that you're doing all that, because in this state, we're surrounded by states that have cannabis and marijuana. And if you ever drive on Route 12 in up into Michigan, every block has one or two new stores on it for selling marijuana. So, and of course, the billboards are all up and down 8094.
Yeah.
So you can't miss them. And I think the governor has been seems in my opinion to be a little more open to it.
Yeah, that's what I was reading.
But this state spends $10 to $20 million a year to enforce our cannabis laws. So, and throw people in jail for nonviolent crimes, which I think is outrageous. But, we could take that money and do other things with it. We could help.
Sure.
We could help people with it instead of hurting people.
And so let's make it clear: the Indiana has neither medical or recreational use legalized, and so some of these white papers and activity that Jeff is doing is to work on the medical side of things. And Jeff, as you had mentioned, you had dealt with opioid issues because of your back pains from military service. And that's really where I think some of the biggest benefits for veterans can come into is that as a pain reliever, it's not as toxic for your body as some of these, maybe Oxycontins or Vicodins.
Nobody died from overdosing on pot.
Right. But it does alleviate so many different things that these other states have recognized. And now the United Nations has recognized seemingly. So by that executive order, I think it should allow even some of the most conservative states like Indiana for Governor Braun to, which we have read recently, be a little more open-minded to it.
Yeah.
And I would anticipate at least legalization of medical. Okay. Now,
that'd be a step in the right direction.
Jeff, my question to you is, and we had mentioned the VA using like GLP-1s last week on the radio show. So the VA is kind of expanding its, pharmaceutical reach into different categories, and I think are more open to things. Now, if the VA starts federally being able to prescribe medical marijuana, okay, and I'm not sure if they do or not in certain states, if it's a state-by-state thing, how does that affect, let's say, current service members that are, I go to the VA and I'm still serving in the Reserves National Guard. So if, let's say, the VA for pain prescribed me marijuana, would I be able to take that, prescription to my unit and say, listen, I'm allowed to do this? That would be a huge jump for the U.S. military, especially very conservative on most drugs. Certain drugs, even with a prescription, they'll discharge you. And I don't know specifically what ones some of those are, but I know you could take like mental health medication, things like that. You can, right? But there are certain things where they're like, no, if you're on that, like you're not fit to serve. So I would question, like, how does that affect current service members? If the VA was to push on something like that.
I can understand your question and concerns, but obviously, when it comes to dealing with your workplace employer and stuff like that, or the active duty and stuff like that, there might still be restrictions. Okay, again, now the current I talked about the senior liaison White House advisor for the VA, Jack Leiningold. The current one is Levine Gartland. Now, I just received an email. I presented a proposal on how the VA can actually have cannabis without actually, or within the VA system, without actually prescribing or having cannabis on hand. And I recommended what we would call, believe it or not, I call them pot doctors, plant outpatient therapy.
Ah, okay.
Now, if the VA and now exactly. So these doctors would be working strictly within the pain management clinics and other clinics, say like psychiatry or veterans that are going through chemotherapy and stuff. Now, what these POC doctors would do is they would be educated on different strands and dosage and everything else. At the same time, they'll be familiar with different veterans' illnesses like PTSD or chronic pain. And that way, when the veteran comes into a facility, they say, okay, well, I'm taking opiates for this, this, and this. And he says, well, veterans in your case or with your ailment, have used this strand of cannabis, and it seems they use gummies. This gummies is good for chronic pain because it's more of a body high than a head high. You still maintain a sound mind and self-control, and that's what a lot of employers are really concerned about.
Sure.
Can you take cannabis and you can, but obviously you can get to a point you can get high, you can get a head high from it too and stuff like that. That's why it's so careful. That's why it's so vital for these doctors within the to recommend a certain strand and start them off in dosage. Now, in this white letter and stuff, we propose an educate before you medicate proposal in the white paper and stuff like that. We're just still trying to get our foot in the governor's office. Last Friday, well, let me back up. In January, we met with the Secretary of Business Affairs, which was Mike Speedy, and we basically talked about the economics and what it would do for his department. And actually, we estimated it would bring in well over $150 million a year in revenue by licensing and taxing and whatnot. And then last Friday, the day after the DOJ's rescheduling, how convenient, we met with the director of the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs and the chief of policy for the Indiana Department of Health. And we told them about the formation of this Indiana Cannabis Compliance Commission and what it would mean for our state.
Oh, that's great. I was just reading about, have you talked to the Chamber of Commerce? Because I read an article a few weeks ago when the governor first came out and said we need to look at our stance on marijuana and medical marijuana, and the Chamber of Commerce said absolutely not. I don't know where they come into this, but...
Well, we have another veteran friend of mine. He's an Air Force veteran. He has worked closely. He worked in the Department of Commerce, and he has been trying to work with them. And like you said, I can feel the frustration that he's having with them.
I can only imagine
stuff right now. But this whole rescheduling changes everything. Again, there was only 10 more states remaining for medical here in the United States, and Indiana was one of them. And we want to make sure that we do it right in a way that it outdoes every other one. We've spent enough time in summer studies and looking at how other states have run their agencies or commissions, and we want to take the good, the bad, the ugly from all of them and develop our own ones into, again, this commission needs to be a quasi-governmental entity in itself.
Right. You know, and Richard M. Fairbanks Foundation just did a study about looking into cannabis use in Indiana, and they found that the study estimates that people are spending $1.8 billion. That's $1.8 billion with a B dollars in cannabis products within this state. Now, where are they getting that stuff?
Within the state?
No, well, you know, they're going to Michigan.
Yeah, but from the state?
Yeah. So the state is losing out on billions of dollars a year, which is so stupid.
Oh, my God.
It's nonsense. And what we're also losing out on is we've seen we call them cannabis refugees. We've had a lot of veterans in our state actually just leave the state. A lot of our citizens leave the state because they can use their medicine in a state and not feel criminalized.
Right.
And those Jason Straw is a perfect example. He was on your show a few years back when we were there, and he moved to Michigan with his wife, and they started an operation there growing cannabis for patients there in Michigan.
Wow, that's it's good for Jason for doing that. You know, not everybody can just pick up and move. And another thing in the study was cannabis, while Indiana adults 26 and older has steadily increased in their use, the last decade, while cannabis use for kids 18 and under has decreased. So
that's good.
Well, which is good, because I think you still have to have that 18 and over caveat on there.
You should have that mentality. I think it there's a lot of studies that say that it prevents some brain development in adolescence. It'd be the same thing as like a 15-year-old kid taking creatine or something. You know, like your body, you get so much testosterone or whatever. You got all your hormones and things get misbalanced. And it also, at a young age like that, will debilitate your capability of creating emotional support by yourself, because it might numb you out to different feelings. And then when you're in your adulthood, you stop using it or don't need it medically, then you've lost that growth phase of your personality and your brain development. And they say through therapists that I've talked with that, you know, using marijuana in your adolescence can kind of lock your personality into that age that you started. Like, say you start smoking weed at 15 and then you don't stop.
That's why I act like a high schooler.
You don't stop smoking weed till you're like 35 or 40, and then all of a sudden
I knew Steve was going to say something.
But so you mentioned different types of weed, and I think everybody, or I should say medical marijuana, I think everybody kind of remembers the indica, right, and the sativa. So indica is like in the couch, like it just makes you like chill, and it's heavy, calmy, almost sleepy relaxation. You get the munchies. And then you got the sativa, which is known for being more energizing. So they call it sunny sativa or sunny like dance floor. Yeah. Okay. So it's like gets you, some people are more creative on it. And I tell you what, I knew some kids in high school that like legitimately smoked weed every day, all day, and got like straight A's, and they were just super creative and smart. And I'm
you had no idea whether they were high or not. They were just...
They just smelled funny.
So I think it's important, like you're saying here, to educate before you medicate, because different symptoms, different strains, different cannabinoid levels, the things that they make these days are not what kids were doing 20 years ago, 30, 40 years.
A dime bag of Acapulco Gold in the 70s was the thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you get your hands on it, normally it was just swag from the backyard. You know?
Right. Well, steeds and stems, as we used to call it.
It's funny, my dad told me that he was in the service in the Southwest America, and they would go into Mexico to get weed. And this is back in the day when he said he would carry opium on his dog tags. And whenever he wanted to get high, just chip a piece of opium off his dog tag and light it up like it was no big deal, you know, Vietnam era.
Wow, I never
and
thought of that.
So he said that, you know, everybody knows the big green duffel bags that you stuff, right? He said he would go into Mexico and get a big green duffel bag full of weed for $50.
Wow.
Oh my god.
You know how many pounds that is?
It's
like
crazy.
50 pounds of weed for like $50, man.
Wow. That's crazy.
I know.
Hey, I got a question for you. Are they going
Okay.
to implement some kind of like benefits for veterans when it comes to this, like ownership, growing? Like,
Oh yeah.
are there going to be any benefits for us?
That would be something that should be down the road. I like to work with the director of the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs because, as you know, there are I think Michigan, they have programs, state programs that help give them discounts for getting their medicine or getting their annual recommendation free. What is it? I think it's Operation 1620 or something like that. I believe is the organization or what they call it. But I believe that would be something that we could work on down the road, and it'd be very viable.
It makes sense, like to support veterans for small business ownership, startup, right? Help the medical community. Create a good established
like it'd be nice
program.
if we're in on the ground
floor and start some businesses right here. Some distribution centers. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And another thing is there's 96% of Indiana residents live within 100 miles of a state that sells marijuana.
Oh wow.
And then you have 44% live within a 50-mile range. So,
wow.
So we're all around.
It's all around us. So it's ridiculous not to take advantage of that, and some people don't even realize our brains, our bodies have a cannabinoid system, and when you say cannabinoids, everybody just thinks, oh, it's pot, but there's so many variations of it, like you just said, Rob, and
like
it's
CBD and stuff.
CBD, exactly. CBD helps my dog.
Yeah.
With her sore joints, and it's great. And I think that whether you use it or not, and is just to let other people have that advantage. If we could get people off of opioids and empty our jails and our prisons of people on opioids and marijuana, I mean, imagine what we could do. And opioids are killing hundreds of thousands of people every day. And you see them, and I used to work at the jail, and I see them every day. And going through detox, I watch people go through detox, and it's terrible.
Oh my God,
it's awful.
Right.
And
withdrawal
is
the worst.
Yeah, and you know what? Alcohol withdrawal is even worse.
I've heard that people you could die.
Yeah,
from it.
We had a guy we had to rush to the hospital. He was doing so bad, coming off of alcohol. So, but I've never had anybody had to detox from pot. Never had that.
Here's a sad story. I know a VFW local commander. He was a Vietnam veteran, and he was prescribed narcotics for many years, and he actually needed them with so much pain that he was in. And the VA back in 2016 and stuff, they were cutting off, or they were reducing how opiates were being prescribed. And the state was doing the exact same thing. They were reducing how opiates were being prescribed. But unfortunately, what happened was he was cut off cold turkey.
Oh, man.
And within 3 days, he passed away.
Wow.
Just from the shock of not having that.
Wow.
And obviously, cannabis is not one of those drugs where you are physically dependent on it and you've got to have it, whatnot. If somebody says that they're addicted to cannabis, it's more of it's a psychological. You could be psychologically addicted to Coke, or Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
And but anyhow, it doesn't have that. And again, we know that cannabis it helps our cannabinoid system. It helps our body heal itself. That's what I like to say. And or it helps us to manage the pain where we need to work through it. So that's very. The other things I didn't mention. In 2019, I attended the National Cannabis Policy Summit in Washington, D.C. And when I did that, I took a letter that was addressed to two committees. One was the House Judiciary Committee and the Senate Finance Committee. And I believe they were seeing the MORE Acts. if you remember that in the past, the MORE Act. And this page is signed by 20% of our state legislators, and it was asking for the government to reschedule cannabis, and which happened last week or a couple weeks ago.
That's great.
So that was a beneficial alternative. And then I was obviously we know about President Trump's signing of the executive order back in December. Behind him was the American Legion and the VFW.
Wow.
I think it was Dan Wiley, and then he's the national commander for the American Legion. And I was honored he mentioned me in his November issue of the American Legion magazine in his monthly speech, and I was honored to have him there.
That's awesome.
So the veterans organizations, I'm hoping will get behind me. I'm trying to set up a meeting with the Big Four here in Indiana and give a debrief to them of what's going on and where I think the state needs to go for, and see if we can get their backing on this commission being done the right way.
Yeah, and Jeff, it's people like you in the state that push these, and it's going to be a benefit, and we appreciate your candid dedication to this. And so Indiana has, I think, grown light years in the last 10 years at least, and some of the aspects of this. So in 2018, the Farm Bill allowed Indiana really to start farming hemp, and they have found Indiana's soil to be very beneficial and climate well suited for industrial hemp products, which are used for textiles, construction materials, paper, food products. Anything
made out of plastic can be made out of hemp.
Yeah, and so that's a huge step forward for a conservative state. However, this hemp that's got to be grown is very it's very it doesn't have much THC.
It doesn't have any,
it's even,
less than 1%.
If not even any, right? Yeah, less than like 0.03 or something. Its use state explicitly bans the production and sale of smokable hemp. So it's highly regulated.
Oh, yeah.
And then despite so far in 2026 the attempts to ban even hemp, okay, they're trying to ban the Delta 8 and THCA type products at the gas stations, things like that. It's been tough. It's kind of a gray area, but I tell you, I've seen people smoke these fake weeds. They're like potpourri or something like that, and the effects is not normal.
You're talking about that like
Delta 8.
That's not the stuff that, like in Florida, that guy that took it was like trying to eat
I think that was
face.
like salt or something. That was like
salts. Yeah,
that guy was like a zombie or something.
Yeah.
But this stuff is like really bad to smoke. So you want to make sure that, as Jeff had said, you educate before you medicate, but you don't want them to come out with strands to try to get around the law and then like hurt people.
Right. Right.
Because I think there's a lot of people that are trying to avoid drug testing and then smoking this fake pot and frying their noodles.
I heard that there's a test that they could do now where they know if you smoked within the last 2 hours or something.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the radio show. It's like a swab.
That's crazy.
But you know what? It is illegal to drive under the influence, whether it be Vicodin, Xanax, weed, alcohol, right? And the only one that they really have is, and I would assume that they're going to advance in their technology to prevent even further.
Well, sounds like
they just take two different types of breathalyzers or whatever the case may be, you know?
Well, if an alcohol drinker pulls up to the red light, he's going to run it. Meanwhile, the pot smoker behind him is sitting there waiting for it to change,
Yeah.
So, just chilling out, so.
But I think, so on the medical prescribed side of this thing, there's so many benefits, and we just keep going back to this opioid epidemic that's been going on for so long, and the over-medication of VAs, of soldiers, of prior PTSD cases where there's so many studies to benefit, and even advancing into the different hallucinogenics that we've talked about on this show with the mushrooms and psilocybin, things along those lines. Like, those are scientific studies that have shown positivities in PTSD patients as opposed to just filling them up full of toxic pills.
I think part of our fight too in this state is going to be Eli Lilly, because Eli Lilly is a big contributor to our government, our legislatures, and I don't know how that's going to affect what decisions come out of Indianapolis.
Right. Let's remember Colonel Eli Lilly.
Nice.
Was instrumental in having cannabis in his pharmacia.
Really?
Before? Oh yeah, absolutely. Eli Lilly was producing cannabis derived products back in the early 1900s.
Oh, I'm sure they'll hop on the bandwagon if it legalizes.
I wonder if that's what we're going to
the
see.
leader in the charge.
If Rick Daves is listening, who is the CEO for Eli Lilly, I'm more than willing to talk to him and how we can work with our veterans and Eli Lilly to make sure that and this commission to make sure that we're doing it right.
And I think a lot of people don't realize either is that a lot of our medication is made in China, and China does not have, and we do not have the ability to regulate them. So there was a thing a while back where some of the medicine coming out of China was tainted and people were dying. So I think if we can keep this in America where we can regulate it and we can track it and we can make sure it's made correctly and there's no other things in it, any contaminants, I think that's a great thing for everybody.
America.
Heck
yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
So speaking of that, I want to take a little break and I want to talk about some of our sponsors. So stick with us, Jeff, for a sec. These people help keep the show going, and we're thankful for our sponsors. So we want to thank Calumet Breweries, 6535 Osborne Avenue in Hammond. You can reach them at 219-845-2242. Calumet Park and Funeral Chapel, always supporting our veterans. 2305 West 83rd Avenue, Maryville. Call 219-769-8803 for special veteran savings. DAV Chapter 17, meet the first Thursday, 7 p.m. VFW Post 802, 5820 Holman Avenue. DAV Chapter 80 to meet the second Friday, American Legion Post 261, 13050 Washington Street in Cedar Lake. 219-386-2282. Laborers International Union, North America 41, 500 Superior Street, Munster, 219-924-7922. And then I'll continue with the rest before the end of the show.
Awesome.
Okay.
So
I think it's great that the governor is starting to signal that he's more open to cannabis. I think I read a statement the other day where he's talking about how, it's ridiculous. We have everybody going, we're surrounded. We have Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, and Illinois that sells it legally, and that's where everybody's going. I mean, how many times you hear about arrests on 8094 by somebody who's, bought all this cannabis in Michigan and coming back through Indiana?
That's what I'm scared of, though, is that he is eager and more receptive to it so he could tax it.
Well, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're going to make some money
Well,
on it.
we're going to tax it, right?
Yeah.
But I just hope he doesn't tax it.
You're right. Yeah, like at 80%
It
or something.
just seems like everything is getting taxed.
Everything gets taxed. Everything we do, it's all taxed.
Let's look at it this way. I'm a medical cannabis patient. I have a card that's through Presto Doctors, and I'll tell you right now, I receive my medication just like I do my medication through the VA. So, and the dispensary sent it to me. They get a copy of my Indiana's driver's license. They get a copy of my annual medical recommendations, and their backing is you have a constitutional right to your medicine.
Absolutely.
And now with this rescheduling, obviously it makes it's never been challenged here. I've reached out to quite a few prosecutors, and I could show the legality, how it is constitutionally viable for that patient or anybody that has a card. So what does the state do? They fall on you basically fall under the fair faith clause of the Constitution, which is Article 4, and I believe it says, fair faith shall be given to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. So with this this ruling. If you have a medical cannabis card from another state and you come into Indiana, here's a perfect example. You're going to Florida on vacation. You get stopped in Georgia and they ask you for your driver's license. Well, you don't have a Georgia's driver's license. They have an Indiana's driver's license. They must recognize it. It's the same. That's the same concept. It's a reciprocity, but now it's should be nationwide. So
right now, is that how you got a cannabis card in Indiana? Was going to a different state?
No, I actually I was asked to speak at Berkeley in California.
Oh, okay.
In 2016, and at the time we went to go visit a dispensary, and there was a doctor there that was and giving medical cannabis patient cards, and I basically said, hey, do you have one? I said, no. Would you like one? I said, yeah. And I told him everything I was taking Oxycontin for. And he kind of stopped me. He says, stop. And he said,
wow.
You know, and then I've seen him every year, and I go through a questionnaire, and you know, every year, and I see my doctor via. So here's what happens is the Affordable Care Act gives you the right to see a doctor virtually.
Right.
That doctor doesn't have to be from Indiana. It could be from California. Now, well, let's say he's from California. Now, the Compassionate Care Act of '96 gives that doctor the authority to write recommendations to his patients. His patients doesn't have to necessarily be from California, but it can be from anywhere. So he can write a recommendation. So that's the precedence of you know, having a medical cannabis card.
So that gives you reciprocity if you were to get, let's say you're traveling, right, and you're not high or whatever, or not on marijuana.
And you
can't, if you're carrying it with you, like you can't get arrested with that card.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. Here now, it all changes. Okay. Now that becomes a legal, viable medicine for me, and. Am I covered under the Americans with Disability Act? Obviously, that changes the lingo because marijuana is no longer a medical marijuana is no longer illegal. It is now a legal substance and protected.
Okay.
Under that act.
That's great.
Yeah. That's what
we're learning a lot today.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we don't want to put all your personal business out there, Jeff, but it's very interesting because then I think that opens a possibility for everybody else that really didn't know that you could, have that opportunity, and it's such a benefit. There's people out there right now, probably people listening that take a pain pill every day, and it's just eating away at their organs.
The sad part is when you go to the VA, if they give you any kind of pain medication, you're part of the pain clinic, and then you have to take a drug test whenever you pick up your medication. Well, not whenever you take you get your meds, but every once in a while you got to do a drug test. And
the old whiz quiz.
Actually, when you show up to the you better, if you're taking oxycodone or an opiate, you better have that in your when you go to the doctor's board, you better have that in your system. If you don't, they'll think that you're abusing them.
Slanging it.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Well,
so, I mean, they might be checked, and if they check, and obviously the veterans, if they test for marijuana, they get thrown out of the pain management clinic.
Wow.
And then you run the risk of them going through the withdrawals that they do, especially if they've been on for quite a long time.
Right. Now, and when I first went to the VA, and the doctor asked me, well, what medications are you on? And I told her all the medications. She's like, okay. Didn't ask me why. Didn't ask me, didn't evaluate me for what I was on. And I just was like, wow, I should have said more stuff.
That's a good doctor.
Yeah. But in my opinion, the VA has always been pushing pills. And, here's a pill for this, here's a pill for that. Yep. And before you know it, you've got one of them big, huge organizers on your kitchen counter and separating everything in the AM, PM, or whatever. And it's ridiculous, and think back to when you were on active duty.
Yeah.
You go on active duty and you go, well, for us anyway, it was you go into the sick call and they're like, oh, you broke your leg, here's some ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, you got AIDS, here's some ibuprofen. It didn't matter what you had, here's some ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen or Flexerals. Remember
Oh,
those?
yeah. Yep. That cured everything in the military. It's terrible, but we laugh about it because it's kind of funny, and we all have that similar experience, so.
Yeah, Jeff, we're coming down to the wire here. We got a few minutes left. Is there anything last you want to put out to our citizen soldiers and veterans and current service members out there listening?
What can we do to help?
Well, again, support this Indiana Cannabis Compliance Commission as a quasi governmental agency, and let's see if we can get in the governor's office and make this happen. Obviously, I can use the support of all the veterans out there that are dealing with this issue and feel that this is the right direction that we need to be going. And I'll still keep fighting the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jeff, for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Steve is real excited to have you on today. He's just been talking about it all week long, and we're great advocates for you. And anytime you want to come on the show and talk about your current status or your current mission, then we will gladly let everybody in the region and all over the country that tunes in here hear us out. In Indiana, we need to catch up with some of the surrounding states to get this thing passed down. So
yeah, please keep us updated. Definitely.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Steve.
Hey, can I ask you one more question? Do you know if the VA are they going to start doing their own experiments with cannabis to make medication?
This opens the door, and believe it or not, in the past, you may not be familiar with Dr. Sue Sisley, but she has done clinical studies on cannabis and veterans. Unfortunately, the cannabis was the kind that came from the University of Michigan, and it was plant-based.
Yeah.
And it had mold and sticks.
Oh man!
Obviously, there was all kind of problems, but we are going to propose to the VA that they start doing opening up to clinical studies. And I've reached out to the director of the North Central Indiana facility down at the VA Center in Indianapolis to look into that.
Great.
But I think that might be a little bit down the road, but I think the VA is going to look at some clinical studies throughout the country.
Awesome.
And I hope maybe Indiana can.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you.
All right, we're going to go down the wire with our co-host, Steve. We got some more sponsors to talk.
Yeah, we want to thank the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Chapter 721. They meet at VFW Post 802, 5820 Holman Avenue in Hammond. Second Thursday, 7 p.m. Family Dental Care. Veterans receive free exams, x-rays, cleanings. 10% discount on all services. You can reach them at 219-804-9329. Ron J. Pressmer Insurance Company for all your home insurance, auto, health, business, and more. 219-844-0103. Kuziak Construction, 1235 Summer Street, Hammond. 219-923-3007. Heroes Helping Heroes, Northwest Indiana. Contact Rich, 219-670-2501. White Oak Home Care, 9800 Connecticut. Crown Point, 219-999-5869. We also have John's going to be in Valpo tonight doing claims. Then I think tomorrow is Lake Station. And then, let's see. We have a DAV seminar. It's going to be this Sunday, 11 a.m. 11 a.m. to 12 is going to be the seminar, and then we'll be doing claims. John and Robert will be doing claims. It's going to be 1515 West Leakin Highway, Cherville. Yep, that's it. All
right.
Thanks a lot.
Any closing comments there?
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Definitely
Thanks for
keep us
having me.
updated because this is good info.
Oh, absolutely. I just want to mention the North Township Veterans Roundtable 4th Annual Golf Outing is Saturday, June 13th, which will be here before you know it. It's open to the public. It's $80 per golfer or $320 for a foursome. You can call, where's the number at on here? I lost it. Oh, 219-313-3934. You can also call that same number if you are interested in sponsoring a hole at the golf club.
All right. And then, of course, our co-host, Steve Bramer, Donna Ostrander, and myself, Robert Rockwell, we're going to be signing out. But I want to give a shout-out to a couple of people here. Number one, my wife and I's anniversary is coming up on May 4th.
Hoorah.
Yeah,
Right.
Donna's cup reminded me because it's May the 4th be with you.
That's right.
That way I'll never forget. My beautiful wife, Amber, has supported me in so many ways through 17 years of military service.
Wow.
Of course, a lot of emotional roller coasters and this most recent deployment, holding down the fort. People don't give enough credit, I think, to the families at the state side. So thank you, my wife, my beautiful love, the woman of my dreams, and the mother of my children. I love you, and hopefully we get an opportunity to go out to dinner on May the 4th, and I'll make sure that I leave my Star Wars lightsaber at home. So, but thank you for the time. Thank you for the show. We greatly love being here as all volunteer forces we are. We have also some free World War II history and Indiana casualties. Tom Clark, a veteran of the Afghanistan War and a retired U.S. history teacher, will speak on how he has for 40-plus years researched the history and casualty of World War II, subject matter expert. It's a 1-hour presentation, and that is June 23rd at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Tri-Town Safety Village in Cherville. You can register an email at jhernandez@safetyvillage.us or call 219-613-0359. So this is Veterans Views, award-winning radio show, getting out to the rest of our country. Support our troops, our citizen soldiers out there. We love you. We thank you for being on, and we're going to sign out today. Everybody have a great weekend. Hoorah!
Hoorah! Good night, Chad.